All right, so let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and the quarterback position, not just for 2026, but in the future going forward. Because the Browns, I think, are in a very familiar yet still interesting scenario when it comes to the long term future of its quarterback room. See, the Browns roster is a pretty talented roster. I know some people like to act like it's not talented because they don't win that many games, but it's a talented roster. And they have a defense that gives this team a floor. And that defense is young, full of young players, and also has the best player in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball, Myles Garrett. They have a ton of draft picks coming up. And those draft picks are going to likely go towards the offensive side of the ball, which is going to help raise the floor of the offense. So, in one way, this could be described as a good thing, right? The Browns' floor on defense is getting higher. The Browns' floor on offense is getting higher. And in most ways of looking at it, this is a positive for the Cleveland Browns. The only way and perspective in which it's negative is if we're looking at this through the perspective and the lens of the Browns trying to answer quarterback in the long term. Because the most common way to solve your quarterback problem in the long term is to have a bad season, get a top 5 pick, and then use that top 5 pick on a quarterback who is deemed worthy of that top 5 pick. That is how most teams solve their quarterback problem. Is there other ways of doing it? Yes, some teams get lucky in the second round, in the third round, maybe even in the fifth, maybe even in the seventh round. Some teams got lucky. One team famously got lucky in the sixth round. But that is exactly what it is, getting lucky, right? You can't really make a plan that revolves around crossing your fingers and hoping that you get super, super lucky. It's not a good plan. There are other ways, right? You could trade for a quarterback, but again, much like getting lucky in the draft, trading for a quarterback, those opportunities aren't really around every off season, and very rarely are the opportunities to trade for a quarterback good opportunities to trade for a quarterback. And even if it's a good opportunity to trade for a quarterback, no fan base knows better that you can still trade for a quarterback who's seen as a top 5 guy in his prime and it not work out, because that's exactly what the Browns did with Deshaun Watson. This team has limited ways right now to get the quarterback that would be necessary to compete in the AFC. And they have limited ways in the future to acquire it, because I think this team's floor is going to continue to raise. So that is going to be a question in the background of every quarterback that we consider to start. Can they help us, if they aren't successful, get to the quarterback that we need to get to? Is there something about this quarterback that can maybe get us an asset that we need to get the quarterback that we need to get to? These are the questions that the Browns have to answer, because the reality is in the AFC, if you want to be a true contender, you need a quarterback. Now, if you're fine with just making the playoffs and maybe winning a game here and there and losing in the second round and doing that, you could do that without a quarterback, no problem. But if you want to be a consistent contender, if you want to eventually see the Browns win a championship, you're probably going to need the Browns to get significantly better at quarterback than where they are today. Whether that means that Shedeur Sanders gets better, whether that means that Dylan Gabriel takes some kind of unheard of leap in his career, or the Browns get super lucky and sign somebody who's going to be good, right? That's what it's going to require. So that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the Browns quarterback options and their pathways to solving the problems, and what band-aids can they put on the problem for 2026. Let's talk about that. But first, I got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus,
First-time users also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper.
So let's talk about options that the Browns have, right? There are some guys out there who, if you brought them in, they would be expensive enough to where you would probably have to commit to them as starters. Then there are a couple options I think that are there that you wouldn't have to commit to as starters. You could have in a legit quarterback competition because they wouldn't be that expensive to acquire. Let's start with a guy who is on that first list, a guy that if you got him, you would have to commit to him as a starter. Let's talk about how I feel about it. Kyler Murray, the former quarterback or current quarterback still for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if you're looking at upside with Kyler Murray, he's a former Pro Bowl quarterback, a former number 1 overall pick, a very talented quarterback. Is seen as a runner, can throw the ball well, all of these things. But here's the big issue with Kyler Murray. Last 3 seasons, he's not played a ton of games. He's only played like 25 games in 3 seasons because he's been injured twice. He's been up for comeback player of the year for 2 seasons in a row, and he'll probably be up for comeback player of the year next year, which is to say that Kyler Murray has gotten injured over the last few years. If you pair this with a significant downturn in efficiency and in statistical output, you get the picture of a quarterback who has injuries that have affected him greatly and might not be capable of playing up to the level that he once was able to play up to. Some people I know have compared this to going after Russell Wilson at this point in his career. That might just be who Kyler Murray is. At 5'10" and 207 pounds, much like Dillon Gabriel, right? Where I made the argument about Dillon, where it's like, yeah, you can tell me that he can be a good athlete or if he's like super smart or something, but to succeed in the NFL at 5'10", you need to be an extraordinarily special athlete at the position. If you're not that, I don't think you can be successful at that height. Turned out to be true so far for Dillon Gabriel. And with Kyler Murray, if he's not that same athlete that he once was, that elite level athlete, then you start to see the problem there with Kyler Murray. He's had those injuries. He's gotten beat up. He's packed on extra weight to try to like protect against those injuries, but it seems to have slowed him down significantly on top of the injuries already slowing him down. There is a big concern that Kyler is just not as capable athletically as he used to be. And he's also 28. He's going to be 29. He's at the natural age where you would have worried about this regardless of injury. The big question with Kyler Murray is, one, what kind of relationship does the offensive mind behind the Browns offense have with Kyler Murray? Is there a pre-existing relationship that suggests that this thing could be successful? If there is one there, then maybe you think about it. If there's not, then I don't know if you really touch this one. The other question is Kyler Murray, the quarterback, the preparer behind the scenes. You haven't heard great things. We all remember the Call of Duty clause they had to put into the contract. That's another thing that you have to consider, right? Like, is this guy really a leader that you need him to be? And the last thing you have to consider with Kyler Murray is how expensive is he going to be, right? Are you paying Kyler Murray $20 million a year? Are you paying Kyler Murray $40 million a year? Are you paying Kyler Murray $50? Are you trading for his current contract? If this gets expensive for Kyler Murray, I don't really see the point in doing it. I think Kyler is probably going to be somebody who ends up on like a league minimum or a pretty cheap deal this year because he gets cut by the Cardinals. And if that's the case, I think he probably signs with a more contending level team. But yeah, that's the big concern with Kyler. I don't even know even if he was interested, if I would be that interested. If it's less than $20 million for 1 year and you're not locking yourself into anything long term with Kyler, I would be okay with it. But I would be very, very, very skeptical about whether this is going to lead to win-loss record success, because the Kyler Murray we have seen recently does not leave you with a ton of hope that that would be the case. So not super excited about the idea of going after Kyler Murray. Part of me is just kind of okay with not going after Kyler, and if you can't get any of the other options, maybe just letting the young guys play, because the season kind of is what it is at that point. You know what I mean? Like, you might be able to salvage the season with Kyler, but if it's going to cost you any ability to rebound in 2027, I don't do it. Mac Jones is the next one on this list. I'm already not a big fan of this one because you would have to trade a significant asset for Mac Jones. People are talking about maybe a third round pick for Mac Jones. I'm good, man. I'm good. The one thing is he'd be cheap, but he probably want a new deal. So you're probably talking about trading a third, him wanting his deal renegotiated and giving him about $20 million. Look, man, I've never been a big fan of Mac Jones. I tried when he had success his rookie year, and then he immediately sucked after that. I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones. Maybe you at home are a believer in Mac Jones, but I can't do it. I'm not a believer in Mac Jones. So the idea of trading a third for him, it's just not really the most appealing thing in the world. If what I understood it, stand it, if they went by it, sure. You know, my caveat for every single option that the Browns have, including Shador and Dylan Gabriel, if the guy that you bring in to be the head coach truly believes in one of those names, that they're a franchise quarterback, and he just has to coach them right, sure, give it a try. Right? If you think that you just got to get Shador right, sure, give it a try. If you think you just got to get Dylan Gabriel right, sure, give it a try. You think that you have to get Kyler right or Mac Jones or Malik Willis right, sure, man, give it a try. We'll see what happens. I'm skeptical, but if that's what you really believe in and you're willing to commit to it, then I take that. You know, that being said, I just can't see myself getting to that point with Mac Jones. All right, let's talk about Malik Willis, who I think is probably the guy that most people suggest for the Cleveland Browns. I get why people are excited about this one. The tape is pretty exciting. He's made some really nice throws. He has some really nice athletic ability, good arm strength, pretty accurate thrower at the football. It looks like he's developed into. I do think it is a concern that we're basing this off of about 3 games of football. I do wonder how he handles situational football. Like, it is a bit of a shot in the dark here with Malik Willis. There's a lot of stuff about his game that has not been discovered. You're really working off of 1 or 2 traits here that you can confirm with Malik Willis. The question is like the price tag. If it stays under $20 million for him, I can get behind it, right? I wouldn't expect it to work out, but it's a swing that I can understand, right? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. I'm not really going to be pissed off because it's not going to set the team back that much if you give them like a 1 year, 20 million or something like that, or a 40 million over 2 that's really easy to get out to for the second year. It's not going to kill the team if you take a chance like that. But I would be okay with the chance. I just would be skeptical of it, right? I think he's in the same bucket as Kyler Murray. I think I'm a little bit more cynical on Kyler Murray than I am of Malik Willis. And that's just because of age and injury. Like, Malik's similar age to Kyler. I think he's like a year or 2 younger, but he hasn't been injured as much as Kyler. So, fresher legs there. With Kyler, it's a lot of injury there, right? That just makes me concerned with him. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about guys that if you signed, you would have to guarantee get the starting position, I would probably rank Malik Willis 1, Kyler Murray 2, Mac Jones 3. Let's get to the 2 names I have here who you can have start for you, but they won't be guaranteed the job. You could trade for Anthony Richardson. Now, let me put the caveat here. 2 5th-round picks is about as high as I'm willing to go for Anthony Richardson. I don't know what the price tag's going to be on him. I don't know what the Colts' appetite to get rid of him is, because right now they don't have a quarterback either. So, like, they might want to give him a try, at 23. But he is super young, as I mentioned before. He's only 23 years old. He's actually younger than Shador and Dylan Gabriel. If the Browns traded 2 5ths for Anthony Richardson right now, he would be the youngest quarterback on the roster. That's kind of crazy to think about, but he would be. He's that young. He has not shown a lot of promise in his college career nor in his NFL career, right? That's the big thing with Anthony Richardson. You're trading for a bucket of traits. It's very similar to Malik Willis, except for Malik Willis does have 3 games of demonstrating that he's putting those traits to good use. Anthony Richardson doesn't have that, but the price difference would be significant between Anthony Richardson and Malik Willis, right? You're talking about a guy still on his rookie contract. I think it's probably going to be about like $7 or $8 million. And a guy who would cost you maybe like a 5th, like a couple day 3 picks. It's not as substantial as a cost as Malik Willis or Kyler Murray. And ultimately, you don't have to commit anything in the future to Anthony Richardson. There is the upside of, hey, maybe Anthony gets the right coach. He's at the right state of mind, the right point of his life to get the teaching that he needs. And he becomes what people thought he could be, which is like, hey, this kind of like super strong armed Cam Newton type quarterback, right? And you solve your quarterback problem because he's 23 years old and, you got a lot of time with him on the roster. So I could get behind a 5th. Like if I'll put it like this, it would bug me way less than the trade they made last year for Kenny Pickett, right? If they took a swing on Anthony Richardson and gave up 2 5ths for Anthony Richardson, that would be better than when they gave up the 5th and DTR for Kenny Pickett. It would serve a similar purpose. Anthony Richardson would get a chance to compete. If Shador could beat out Anthony Richardson, then cool, Shador could start. If Dylan Gabriel can beat them both out, then sure, Dylan Gabriel can start. And if Anthony Richardson looks great in camp, then sure, Anthony Richardson can start, right? Like, I wouldn't really be too attached to anybody in that scenario. I really wouldn't care because I just want the best player to come out of that with the job, right? So yeah, take a swing at Anthony Richardson. You could talk me into it. You could talk me into a swing with Anthony Richardson, especially with the right coaching staff behind him. You can talk me into Anthony Richardson. Would I bet the farm on Anthony Richardson? Hell no. Would I bet the franchise on? Hell no. Would I bet even the Browns starting job on it? No. No, we're not even. He gets a chance to compete. But if you're giving him a chance to compete and then Dylan and Shador a chance to compete, okay, best man wins. You know what I mean? I'm fine with that, right? May the best under 25-year-old win the job and take the job. Daniel Jones is another guy you can bring in. Achilles tear, but coming back from that. Played some good football last year. He's another one where it's like, if the price is right and the coordinator's right, then yeah, we could do it. But other than that, I have my reservations about it. But yeah, I'm not really too excited about Daniel Jones at this point, but I can understand going after it, right? It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to go after Daniel Jones. Again, you're not guaranteeing the job to Daniel Jones. He would have to go out there and win it the same way you're not guaranteeing the job to Anthony Richardson. He would have to go out there and win it. But those are other options there. There is another way that the Browns can acquire a starting quarterback next year, and that is in the first round of the draft. Now, with Fernando Mendoza clearly looking like the favorite to go number 1 overall and Dante Moore not being in the draft class, it leaves one option. Maybe if you like Trinidad Chambliss enough, or Ty Simpson. I think this is going to come down to their evaluation. My stance on drafting a quarterback in the first round is always the same. If you truly think that he could be a franchise quarterback, then take him in the first round. Sure. But if you think anything less than that, do not take a quarterback in the first, right? My whole argument with Mendoza and more, I think they can be franchise quarterbacks. You might disagree with me, but that's what I think. I would be willing to do a first round pick for those guys. If I think anything less than that of a quarterback, I'm not going to advocate for them going in the first round because I think that's a waste of time. I've seen the Browns waste their time in the late first a lot. Right now, from what I've seen with him, I don't know if I'm confident with the first round pick. I got to watch more and find out more about what his medicals were at Alabama at the second half of the season. But that's kind of just where I sit with Ty Simpson. So right now, I'm very uncomfortable about using a first round pick on him. And I don't see this situation as, even if I don't like Ty Simpson in the first round, if I think that he could be a mediocre quarterback down the line, I'm not going to use the first just to avoid playing Shedeur Sanders. Like if it comes down to that, then it's like, okay, we'll just pivot and play the young guys for a year instead of wasting a first round pick on somebody you don't believe in. Now, if you at home believe in Ty Simpson and you think he could be a franchise quarterback, you should want the Browns to take him in the first round. But if that's not what you believe about him, if you have to convince yourself that he's worth the first round by saying he could be Kirk Cousins, he could be Bo Nix, he could be insert quarterback that's not that good, and you're already starting with a compromise with that player, then yeah, you're kind of telling on yourself that you really don't believe in that guy, and that guy probably shouldn't go in the first round, or you don't really have business as a team taking that guy in the first round. So for me, I don't know how I'm going to feel about Ty Simpson at the end of the day. I got to do more work on him, but that's kind of my guideline for quarterbacks in the first round. I don't want to just take one to take one. I think that's how you end up in trouble. And then if you're asking me about quarterback outside the first round, I'm pretty much going to be no on all of it. Not a big fan of it. One, you already got two quarterbacks that you took outside the first round on this team that you spent a year working with and evaluating. You might as well stick with those guys and use those other picks on other positions. And two, I'm not very impressed with this year's day 2, day 3 crop of quarterbacks. So, I'm not really big into it. It's either if you think Ty Simpson's a first round quarterback, if you think Trinidad Chambliss is a first round quarterback, okay. And if you think that they're going to be franchise guys, then you can go for that. But if you don't want to go for that, then you don't think they're franchise guys, then I think you probably stay away from drafting a quarterback entirely. Now that Mendoza doesn't feel like there's going to be an option there for him, and Moore's not there. Maybe if the Raiders lose their mind and offer you a chance to trade up to one, I would take it. I would take Mendoza. But unless that happens, we're probably going to be quarterbackless in this draft more than likely, or at least I think it's going to be, the possibility is there that they don't even take a quarterback, which, probably mean that their swing comes somewhere with one of those other options I mentioned there. So just wanted to make sure I included that in this video. Let me know what you think about these short-term options for the Cleveland Browns and what you prefer the Browns to do in the short term. Are you just, hey, play one of the rookies? Or you just go after Anthony Richardson with the late day 3 pick? Or do you want the Browns to do something more substantial to give you some hope that they could solve the problem maybe this year with a Malik Willis or Mac Jones or Kyler Murray? Or is there a name that I didn't mention that you want the Browns to consider as well? Let me know in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.